What is going on, everybody? Sean, Faz, and guest Jack here tonight for this episode of Goat Talk. I'm sorry for the delay. We ran into a little bit of technical problems, but today we're here to talk about the All-Star Game. So, obviously, there were some snubs. So, both you guys, which one comes off the top of the head first?
So a guy that I want to talk about, we'll talk about a little bit before the show, is not Devin Booker, who I know everybody,
Well, I mean,
NBA
according to the
players.
thumbnail we made that had Devin Booker on
Well,
it, but he actually
well,
made
I'm
it in
gonna.
as a reserve now. We found
He
out
did
today.
that. So technically, he did make it as a reserve, replacing Anthony Davis. But despite the thumbnail, I'm not going to start off with Devin Booker. I'm going to talk about Domantas Sabonis. I think yes over Devin Booker, even though he's technically an All-Star now, was the biggest All-Star snub. Domantas Sabonis this season averaging almost 22 points, 12 rebounds, almost 6 assists. Shooting splits are 53%, 36%, and 71% from the line. He's one of 3 players in the entire NBA right now to average 20, 10, and 5 on over 50% shooting. The other two are Jokic and Giannis. This man is, I think, the best player the Pacers have had in a long time. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I'm a fan of Domantas Sabonis, but he is just dominating right now. He's a great player. And unlike Devin Booker in the West, who my stance on Devin Booker has been, I wouldn't replace anybody on the Western All Stars with Devin Booker, not counting the injury with Anthony Davis. But I mean, I think there are a couple guys in the East that Sabonis should have made it over. Most notably Ben Simmons. I'm sorry for any Sixers fans watching. Most notably
I
Ben
agree.
Simmons,
I agree with that one.
but one more thing about Sabonis. He's the first player. I just literally just read this right now because my friend texted this to me. The first player in NBA history to average 20, 10, and 5 and not make an All-Star team. So not only is he good, he is historically dominant and is the first player of such dominance to not make the All-Star team. He's an absolute snub on a Pacers team that, they've been average, but quite honestly, I think they've exceeded some people's expectations. And the fact that, to me at least, the fact that, like, Julius Randle made the All-Star team and Domantas Sabonis didn't.
You don't think Randall should have made it? Really?
I think he should have made it. What I'm saying is it's shocking to me how Randall, who is producing almost exactly the same as Sabonis, made it, and someone of almost identical production did not make it. I don't think Ben Simmons should have made it. I think Ben Simmons is a joke. I'm sorry, and I was a huge fan of his early on. I think Ben Simmons is a complete joke. But that was the guy I wanted to focus on. I think Sabonis was the biggest snub of the All-Star game, and that's it. Absolute snub. Biggest snub. Biggest snub, along with Bradley Beal in the past decade of All-Stars. I'll go that far. Bradley Beal last season, of course.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. That was who I was gonna say too. I mean, Sabonis, like you said, is historically he's having an historic season, proving right now he's the first player to average 20, 10, and 5 and to not make an All-Star game. That's obviously saying something. And Ben Simmons, he's not even averaging. I mean, I get he's not a shooter, but he's more a defensive player. But he's not even averaging 20. Like, come on. It's hard to average. What is he averaging? 15 and you're making an All-Star game. Making an All-Star game because the Sixers are one of the best teams in the NBA right now.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely some controversy this year, and I'll ask you guys this now: do we like the format? Do you think we should change how the reserves and starters are picked?
I feel like the league is drifting towards not doing conferences anymore, and I think that started with the whole, the team captain thing. Like this year, I think it's team. It's team
It's
LeBron.
KD and LeBron.
KD and LeBron.
Yeah.
Okay, so having the captain thing as a start, I think the conference thing really caps off a lot of all stars, and I get it on one perspective because, like, what happens if of the 30 players, 20 of them are from the West? But on the other hand, it limits guys who probably deserve it, who aren't making it just because that conference has reached the quota. So I don't know if the solution is making the teams bigger and making the game longer so more guys can get action. I don't know what the solution is, but like take the East with Sabonis, or I guess, even before Anthony Davis got subbed out for Devin Booker, the Devin Booker and the West thing. Those are two guys, Devin Booker and Sabonis, that were capped off out of the All-Star game because, there just weren't enough spots. And granted, not everybody can make the All-Star team, but like stat inflation in the NBA has been such a huge thing. Like look back 10 years ago, there were only like 4 or 5 guys in the whole league that averaged 20 points. Right now, there's northwards of 30 guys that are averaging 20 points a game. So players are scoring more, players are getting better, players are more talented, but the number of All-Star spots is still the same. So I don't know what the solution to that is, but I think that's kind of a problem that the NBA is facing, that there's more talent out there than there is recognition to show off that talent.
Yeah, as I feel like you kind of just said it, like there's so many more talented players now. Just I would say try somehow to expand the rosters. Like I get it, you want to make it more of an inclusive thing, but you're at a point right now as a league where, like, as you said, 30 guys are averaging 20 plus points. Like those players deserve some sort of recognition for a great half of a season they've been having, because like those are the types of things that players need to get bigger contracts, and that's going to boost their possibly Hall of Fame statistics and whatnot, where you need those accolades such as an All-Star appearance or just an All-Star team to kind of benefit you in the long run, and I feel like the NBA could benefit from that.
I agree. It's definitely a changing league, and the All-Star game seems to be more and more complained about, I guess, in recent years is the word you could use. But, there was a couple snubs this year. You both picked Sabonis, which surprised me. Devin Booker was the popular one over social media and stuff, and we talked about now he's in there as a reserve. But what were some of the other guys you guys thought that kind of deserved the spot? And let me ask you this, guys that deserved that spot, if they did or didn't, and who they should have replaced.
Who they should have replaced.
I'll say it's not technically a snub, but like I feel like Harden kind of deserved a starting spot over Kyrie. My opinion,
I don't know.
It's weird because we've never really seen a player of his caliber get traded like at this point. So it's like it's tough.
It's tough. Like he's obviously now been on the Nets more than the Rockets this season, and Kyrie went on a 1-2 week hiatus during like the middle of the season. Like I get it, but like why he did it, but still, like Harden was out there playing for the Nets during that time, making pretty much kind of picking up where Irving left off.
Say I have 2 points. The first is to start off in the West. I don't know like what the position breakdown was. I don't think Zion Williamson should have been an All-Star. I think there are guys listen. Zion's great, and
who would you put over Zion?
I mean, before the replacement, I would have put Devin Booker over him. But I guess now that Devin Booker is kind of in for Anthony Davis, that's tough. I mean, I guess now that Devin Booker's kind of in, it's a little different, but I don't know. I would say
Zion's having a good year. It's quiet because ESPN doesn't I'm not gonna say it on air anymore, but he is having a good year, Zion.
What would you feel about his teammate making the All-Star game over him, Brandon Ingram?
Do not get me started on Brandon Ingram.
I'm just asking.
Keep him out. Keep him out. I can't stand Brandon Ingram. No way. Zion deserves it more than Brandon Ingram does.
You think?
I do think. That's what I'm telling you.
There are 2 players that I would consider replacing. I'm blanking. I'm sorry. Zion Williamson. There are 2 players I would consider replacing Zion with. Number one's hard because he's injured, but CJ McCollum.
No, and he hasn't played enough.
SGA, Shai Gilgeous.
No.
I think he's been having a good year too.
He's having a good year, but I still don't put him over Zion.
I don't know. I don't know if Zion. I don't know. Something's bothering me about Zion being an all-star. But this is my question. I want to propose to you both. I got into a little bit of beef yesterday with one of our listeners, who's a friend of mine, about this, saying that Bam Adebayo should have made the All-Star team over Nikola Vucevic. I'm unbiased because I'm a Magic fan, but I'm just curious what the perspective is on Vuce being an All-Star, whether it's Adebayo or somebody else. Like if Adebayo deserved this spot, if Vooch doesn't deserve it, like what's your opinion on that?
Jack, you can go first.
I still think Vucevic deserves it. How many points? I know he's averaging a lot points. How many? Is it 25?
I think it's like right now. I think he's calmed down a little bit. I think he's at like 24 now.
Okay.
22.
I still think Vucevic. I mean, Bam's having.
Oh, here's
Yeah,
his
he's
stats.
having.
He's 24 and 12. Before you go on,
Yeah. I mean, come on. I wouldn't go. That's hard to. I don't see Bam's not doing that right now. There's no way.
Bam's at 19 and 9, I think, right now. 19 points,
exactly.
9 rebounds. So, I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, Jack, but that stat alone should tell you that you can't really. And you're talking to a guy who has Bam Adebayo as his first pick in his fantasy league. Like I like Bam. Ben, if you're watching, I like Bam. Don't get me wrong. I actually think he's playing a little bit worse than he should be this year. But that's the whole Miami Heat squad. That's the story of the year for them. But how do you? I mean, Vucevic is working his way into being a top 3 center in the league. I don't know what you guys think about that statement, but over the last couple of years, I would argue that to be true. So I think it's very well deserving. If Joel Embiid wasn't in the East, he'd probably be the All-Star starter.
agree with that. I try to talk as unbiasedly as possible, but I mean, he has that team on his back right now. That team doesn't have Jonathan Isaac. They have players in and out of injuries all the time, and he's been a consistent player on that team for years. Top 3 this season, maybe he's itching in that top 3. But
you know who 1 and 2 are.
Well, yeah, no, Jokic and Embiid 100%. I think 3's kind of a toss-up. You could put Karl Towns in there, Vucevic in there, Gobert. Yeah, there are guys you can make an argument for. I think without a doubt, Vooch is a top 5 center in the league. But I just think he's deserving of it solely based on the fact that he has that team. And I'll admit it as a fan, that's a pretty garbage team around him. The fact that he has that team somewhere close to playoff contention is incredibly impressive, and he's been the bright spot on that team for a long time.
So I'll ask you this as our it's a 2-part question, but it'll be our last question. So one thing is I gotta ask, as you know, me being a Bulls fan, do you think Zach LaVine was right to be a reserve, or would you have liked to see him as a starter? And what do you think about Tatum and Brown both making the All-Star game?
Faz, you can go first.
All right. LaVine, I can't quite put him as a starter just because, like, he does he deserve to be a starter? Absolutely. But, like, I mean, there are guys above him that are just bona fide superstars. So I don't know if, like, you know, you can make the case of him being a starter over those guys. But more than, you know, I think he's definitely deserving, you know, down the road in the starting position. Just, it's the fact that, you know, he's got superstars, Kyrie Irving, you know, James Harden. I know Jaylen Brown's been having such a great season. There are guys that are just bigger superstars. And I think Zach LaVine is one of the most underlooked, underappreciated stars in the league. But if, you know, I'll put it this way. I think he's like the 6th man. I'll put it that way. Does he deserve to be a starter? Not quite over those guys, but to me, he's my 6th man. He's getting the most minutes off the bench, more deserving of that. And then in terms of Tatum and Brown, I think they're the duo of the future in this league. And I don't like the Celtics at all. Not remotely a Boston fan, but that to me, that's the duo of the future. Like, I think they're as good as advertised. I know the Celtics this season are like 15 and 16. They're not that great, but that is a really, really good duo. We know what Tatum is, but I really think Jaylen Brown almost more than anybody else deserved to be an All-Star this year because he went from being a good secondary option, like a solid second option, to being a second star on that team. The progressions he's made this season are just astounding. And I think Jaylen Brown, not that Jason Tatum doesn't deserve the All-Star nod, but I mean, props to Jaylen Brown because he's upped his game so much. So I think they're both incredibly deserving, despite what's going on with that team, which I don't, by the way, think is on either of them.
Yeah. Zach LaVine, I'm gonna have to agree. Like, is he deserving of it? Yes. Like, he's having the caliber of a season where he should be an All-Star starter. It just so happens he plays in the same conference as studs. Like, you're trying to replace Kyrie, Harden, like just so many superstars, like guys who have been around year after year after year, who I've pretty much grown up watching. You can't. It's harder. Like, yes, Zach LaVine's having an unbelievable year. It's hard to put him over just the guys who are starting right now. And with the whole Celtics, I'm gonna have to agree with Faz again because it's again I'm New York through and through. I still have to give credit where credit's due, and Jaylen Brown's been stepping up when they've needed him to, and he's been filling into his shoes quite nicely. As the Celtics are average, but they're doing better than at least I anticipated. Gordon's been playing what I think we expected of him this year and just previous years too.
Yeah, it was hard to, knock off Tatum and Brown from those All-Star spots because they're definitely well-deserving. I obviously argued for Zach LaVine to be a starter, but when you actually look at the stats, I didn't realize how good of a year Kyrie was actually having. Because when the starters first came out, I'm like, Kyrie? I was like, why isn't it LaVine and Beal in the back? Like, and I looked at Kyrie's stats, and he's like, I guess quietly having a really good year.
He has been.
Another couple names that didn't come up, and one that did come up a little bit was Gordon Hayward, because he's been having such a good year in Charlotte. But one that didn't come up at all, and it's the player I love watching this year. Faz, do you have any guesses?
Trae Young.
No. Trae Young's another one, though. But this one was not talked about. This is a hot take.
What conference?
East. And it's a guard.
Colin Sexton.
No. Scary Terry. Scary Terry's averaging 21 points per game right now.
He's having a good year.
Yeah. And he's doing a lot of good things for Charlotte, keeping them in hitting clutch shots and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if you saw the game against the, I think it was the Warriors, where he scored the last 10 points in the game. It was wild. I was watching the game live. I'm loving. I tune into Charlotte Hornet games just to watch Terry Rozier play now. He's a bad man. He's the reason he's Scary Terry. So it would have been nice to see him get in. But there's just so many people scoring this year. I feel like very strange, weird. This is the COVID world we live in, right?
Weird, the scoring is I know I kind of alluded to this before, but the scoring is through the roof, and there's
it is.
There's just some really weird players that are pairing it up, and I don't know why. Terry Rozier is one of those guys, random guys in the league that are just tearing it up this season for no reason.
All right, guys. So that is it for us tonight. You guys have any final comments about the All-Star game? Maybe who we looking to see in the 3-point dunk contest, anything like that?
Dunk contest, give me. I know Aaron Gordon's days are done, so
he's hurt.
Give me Zion. I know. Give me Zion in the dunk contest. I know what I said about him before, but what a fun dunk contest that would be to have Zion.
I know obviously this is not going to happen. What I would really, really love to see, Ben Simmons in the 3-point contest.
They should have a non-3-point contest. Ben Simmons, Dwight Howard.
Watch him come out and win, too. Watch him hit 3 in a row and everybody just goes nuts.
That would go nuts. All right, so we'll see you guys next week, Wednesday at 9:30. We'll probably do basketball, I guess, next week, we should throw a baseball episode in there soon, Faz, as they're getting started up too. I know Jack would look forward to that probably with baseball.
Yeah.
And then because football's a little slow right now, but we should be getting some drama soon from over there. So tune in next week at 9:30. You were watching Goat Talk. You can follow us on Instagram. It's g.o.a.t._talk. You'll get all our updates of when we're shooting and stuff like that on the social media. So I hope everybody has a good weekend, and we will see you guys next week.